Your podcast is a powerful tool that serves your audience and your business. But how do you manage it all, bring in new listeners, and convert those listeners into customers? That's what this show is all about. Welcome to Podcasting for Educators. I'm Sarah Whitaker, classroom teacher turned podcast manager, and I'm here to help you get the most out of your show, all while making an impact on other educators. Hello. I hope that you are having a wonderful week. If you did not catch the last episode, I shared that I'm trying out a new format for my podcast. I am now releasing 2 episodes a week, one on Wednesday and one on Friday, and they will be mini episodes around 5 to 7 minutes when I am doing episodes by myself, and then the guest episodes will be longer. Today is part 2 of things to prioritize in your podcast. In episode 37, we began talking about the things to really prioritize if you're feeling super short on time as a podcaster and as an entrepreneur and as a mom or dad and just as a human. Can I get an amen? Or better yet, can I get a nap? It's been a long time since I have taken a nap. Anyway, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go ahead back and do that first, because today we're picking up where we left off in episode 37, and I'm sharing the other 2 things that I think you should put your time and energy into in order to get the biggest results from your podcast. So back in episode 37, the first 2 things to prioritize were number 1, to plan your episodes in advance, and number 2, to create great content that your audience both wants and needs. Priority number 3 is to have show notes. If you do not have show notes for your podcast, now is the time to start, my friends. Having show notes will help to boost your visibility online, and it'll be the key to driving people to your website to learn more about you and to see what else you have to offer. And when I say show notes, I don't mean what shows up on Apple Podcasts. That is what I refer to as your episode description. Your show notes are essentially a blog post for each of your podcast episodes. A few quick SEO tips for show notes are to aim to make them 600 words or more, and to choose a keyword to focus your show notes copy around. When you have show notes, you now have a page for each episode that you can use for things that maybe you aren't doing right now, but you might do at some point, like Pinterest pins and Facebook ads. And if you need some tips on how to make writing show notes easier and more efficient, go check out episode 35. It's just a few episodes back. I talked all about how you can use transcripts as a way to make show notes writing a little bit easier for you. The 4th thing I think you should put your sweet, hard-earned time into is sharing your episodes. And this is kind of twofold. 1, share as in you are sharing your episodes in some way. Pick what works for you. If it's reels, great. Make a goal to do 1 reel per episode. If it's creating a carousel for each episode, fantastic. Probably the most efficient way to share would be committing to jumping on Instagram stories for like 30 seconds and talking about your episode. Link it to your stories and add that to your highlights reel on Instagram. If you're totally against video, then don't do it. I am definitely not here to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. But let me just tell you, 99% of the time when I'm on Instagram stories, I'm looking like a hot mess with my mom bun and nobody cares. So if what you look like, if you're in your jammies, if that's what's holding you back from getting on video, fear not, because we all do it. But my point here is that sometimes I think we get so overwhelmed with the sharing component of podcasting because there's so many possibilities of places to share that we just freeze and we don't do anything at all. So if that's where you are, if you're doing nothing right now to share your episodes, then just start small. Pick 1 thing. Stick with it for a little while. Add a second thing when you're ready. And so the second part of this sharing piece is consistently encouraging others to share your show. Have your call to action be to share on Instagram, to share on Facebook. Word of mouth is the number one way that people learn about new podcasts. So it's definitely worth your time to try and encourage that sharing as much as you can. And then, of course, back to the second priority of creating great content. If you're doing that, then sharing is just going to come naturally. It might take some time, but it's going to come. So to recap, if you are a crazy, busy, overwhelmed podcaster, focus on putting your time into these 4 things: planning in advance, creating content that your audience wants and needs, writing show notes on your website, and sharing your episodes and asking others to share. Lastly, let me know how you like these new mini episodes. If you are enjoying them, send me a message on Instagram and tell me what you think. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend who might find it valuable. I will catch you here next week. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. To keep this conversation going, connect with me on Instagram at Podcasting for Educators. I'm always looking for an excuse to talk about podcasting. If you're looking for support in launching, managing, or growing your podcast, check out my online course, the Podcasting for Educators Prep School, at podcastingforeducators.com/prep school. I'll see you here next time.